What's up? My name is Maryellen and welcome to our brand new collab channel. I am so stoked to be here. Today is my first video, so I thought it would be a good idea to introduce myself. But of course, you don't want me just like sitting there talking about myself because that's of no value to you whatsoever. So instead, I thought what we'd do together is make some art. I'll show you a bit of my art style, how I like to paint, and then I will walk you through how I found my own art style so that you can find yours as well. Sounds good? Okay, well, I'm gonna have to set up, so bear with me for 2 seconds and then we'll jump right into it. Voila! So, in all honesty, I have no idea what I'm going to be painting today, but I've embraced that as part of my chaotic process, and I'm okay with it. So, what do we feel like? I'm thinking it's something bright and colorful, something botanical. So what I like to do when I start, I learned this trick from an artist off Instagram. I swear you can learn so much from social media. And the trick is this: if you want your paintings to be bright and colorful, don't go down with a base coat in like the classic umber. What's the base coat color called? Yellow ochre, that's what it is. Yellow ochre, raw umber. I was right. So rather than going down with like a yellow ochre or raw umber, you go down with a really bright color, because then every color that you put on top seems dull. So you naturally overcompensate and make it brighter, and then your painting really pops in the end. So I'm going to go down with this color as the undercoat, wish me luck, and we'll go from there. Anyway, I have to wait for this to dry now. So I guess I can introduce myself a little bit. So if you can't tell by my accent, some people can't actually. On my main channel, I am from Australia. I was born in Sydney, lived here my whole life. I love Australia. I am the eldest of 3 sisters. We are all created in different ways. And I live here now with my husband, Josh, who is a watchmaker, which is so cool. We have been married now for 2 whole years, 2 and a bit whole years, which is wild to think about. Time has absolutely flown. But yeah, so we live here and I also work here. So I work from home on my own little business. I'm a freelance writer, graphic designer, illustrator, all things creative services delivered to you. More paint. Yes, probably. Fun fact, I kind of can lick my elbow. The more you know. What was I saying? So I've been doing that now for about 18 months and I love it. But yeah, running your own business is not as easy as it seems. And I quit my 9 to 5 in order to be able to do more art. And while I do more art, I only do more art for other people rather than myself. And so I'm working on that. I'm trying to figure out how to say no more, put more boundaries in place, live more slowly. And so I'm really passionate about that, about boundaries, about Sabbath, about slow living, about anti-hustle culture, about productivity, but in a healthy, sustainable, say no kind of a way. So if you are interested in any of them, rest assured, I will be talking about that a whole lot on this channel. So hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, you know the drill. It's gonna be good. I'm noticing that this light behind me is changing, and that's stressing me out in terms of editing. So please forgive me if this video looks really weird. I'm doing my best, okay? I'm doing my best. So back to the how to find your art style conversation. Tip number 1 is know what you like versus what other people think you should do. As someone who practiced art a lot as a kid and got very good at like photorealistic, it was very difficult for me to step back from that and be like, hey, I am able to do this, but just because I'm able to do it doesn't mean it's what I want to do and doesn't mean it's what I should do. In the same way, if you have different talents in different areas, if you're multidisciplinary, if you love music and you love crochet and you love office work, you're really organized and love a good spreadsheet. Just because you do all those things really well doesn't mean that you should do all of them professionally, and doesn't mean that you should pursue every avenue, for financial gain. And so learning what it is that actually lights your fire inside, rather than what it is that gives you good feedback because other people are pleased with you because you did a good job, is a really difficult line to walk. There are so many opinions that people will have on what is good art, what is worth buying. The market will also inform you because certain art is more marketable than others. I'm still learning to this day, but have gotten better at. And so because I'm now more comfortable with saying no and with knowing what it is that pleases me and makes me excited, rather than what it is that pleases others and makes them excited and therefore gives me good feedback, I've been able, it's actually really impacted my art journey. Point number 2 that I want to make here: you have to be so patient with yourself and so understanding and compassionate with yourself. It takes a lot of trial and error and time and patience to figure out what it is that you are drawn to physically practice your art, to see what trends come up again and again and again. Be patient. You're not going to find it in a week. You're not going to find it in a month. It might take 6 months, a year for you to really start to see a body of consistent work emerge. And even then, after a couple of years, you might think, I'm bored of this now, I want to do something else. So finding your art style, yes, it's important, but it's also not that important. What is most important is making art. If you're making art, the rest of all this mind game, this whole mind game will sort itself out. So I recently went overseas and got to explore a bunch of galleries across Europe. That was a huge privilege and an absolute delight. But a game I liked to play, and this is, I guess, tip number 3 that I will give you when it comes to finding your art style, is to consume a lot of art. Whether that's online, whether that's in person, at galleries. But a game I like to play, especially in galleries, is you walk into the room, usually there's, 20, 30, 50, whatever, artworks on the wall. And you look around and quickly decide, split-second gut decision, what's my favorite artwork in this room? You've seen them all, you've scanned the room, and you quickly think. Because the thing with art is that there's a lot of, obviously, symbolism and, baggage. There's baggage that comes with the art when this painting is done by this person, or this exhibition is based on this theme, or this work is worth this much money. But if you can just put aside all of that information, provided that you don't have a huge amount of context and knowledge about the exhibition itself, right? Walk into the room and purely based on aesthetics, what are you drawn to? And then go into the next room. Again, what's your favorite? What are you most immediately drawn to? And if you do that in enough rooms, you'll begin to see themes, trends, some common thread will come out of that experience, and that will be incredibly, incredibly useful for you. It got dark so quickly. What? Winter in Sydney, the sun sets at around 4:30, so fun. So one of my favorite actors, entertainers, celebrities of all time is Steve Martin. He's so funny. All of my favorite movies he's in, legend. And I was listening to a podcast the other day when he was talking to Adam Grant. It's on Adam Grant's podcast. I think it was published mid-May 2023, if you're interested. And they were talking about 20 minutes into the podcast. I can put the exact details in the description. They were talking about finding your voice, your authentic voice. And one of the things that Steve Martin said that I thought was so genius, he said, some of the worst advice that, 21st century society has ever been given is that you should just be yourself. Be your authentic self. Because he says, for young people, that is the most confusing thing because you don't know who that is. And for most of us, the default that we would resort to in that instance is, well, my most authentic self is where I feel most comfortable. So I think I should just sit in front of the TV on the couch and watch TV all day. That is my most authentic self, which makes a lot of sense. I get where he's coming from. But he says, like, in the creative industries, especially in comedy and acting and that kind of thing, no one is original. There's no such thing as an original joke. You know, you might write it, but someone's probably said it before. You've taken inspiration from this person, this person, this person, and put it into your own set, into your own bit. So he says a much better approach is simply to ask yourself, who do I admire? Who do I like? And try and emulate them. And I think the same is true for art. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves when it comes to, I need to find my art style. Why don't I know what my art style is? Oh my goodness, this is the worst. Like, help me find my art style. And we panic. I've been there many times. And sure, finding your art style might help you market your work better. It might make you more legitimate, quote unquote. These are all relative terms. But at the end of the day, no one is original. So putting that pressure on yourself is really just going to act as a barrier to even making art in the first place. And so I would take a leaf out of Steve Martin's book and suggest that a much better approach than trying to figure out your art style in isolation and conjure up something original that no one's ever done before and be so unique that everyone knows who you are and all of that stuff. It's just unrealistic and impossible. It's to pick 4 or 5 artists that you really like. And again, this goes in line with figuring out what that actually is, you know, going into galleries, figuring out what aesthetic you like, and then pinning down some artists who have that aesthetic and trying to copy them, doing painting studies of them, you know, picking the same colors they do, whatever it is about their art that you like, do that. Because it doesn't matter how hard you try, you will not be able to paint a Monet realistic, like exactly the same as he did it. Or a Matisse, or a Kandinsky, or a Pollock, or a Kuhn. That's just the reality. So really the pressure is off. There are books on this, multiple books on finding your creative voice. And one of them is Steal Like an Artist. And it's like a short little book. It's not hard to read. I think there's like 3 or 4 of them in the series. And it was really clarifying for me on this point because he basically says nothing is new under the sun. As the wise King Solomon in the Bible says, nothing is new under the sun. And so everything is borrowed. And the best artists can borrow without stealing. And that's a whole conversation in itself, and we don't have time to go into it right now. But guys, the pressure is off. Finding your art style, just pick 4 or 5 artists that you like and emulate them and see what happens. I need you to do the step back test. Bear with me a moment. Well, it could be worse. It could be worse. It could be better, but oh well. So I know I haven't talked a lot about really practical things when it comes to finding your art style, but 9 out of 10 times I find that the reason people get stuck is not because they don't know how to paint. Most people who are wanting to find their art style are painting or want to paint. They have that desire, they have that pre-existing skill. That is not the issue. The issue 9 out of 10 times is a mental one. It's procrastination, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, self-doubt. It's just this mental game that we play with ourselves as artists. That's the reason I've been quite meta in this video, and I hope that's okay. But I'd be curious to know which one of those like mental blocks you faced, or maybe what you're going through right now. In terms of finding your art style, where are you stuck specifically? Because I would love to, if I can, offer you advice in the comments. Let's just have a conversation about it as well. Okay, I'm gonna take a little break and do the background now. No, that was the wrong decision. This is a slightly better decision. I regret this. No regrets. Not even a single letter. know what? I'm just gonna quit while I'm ahead. That's enough for now. Let me just do one final detail. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. Pencils down, students. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you something. This was not what I expected it to be, clearly, but I love it. I think the colors are great. The background does need reworking. I'm very, very conscious of the fact that in about a week's time, I'll probably look at this and think, time to redo the background. Without further ado, I guess it's time to wrap up. I hope and pray that we meet again very soon. Take care, guys. See you next time.